Marksman picks change every season, not because heroes suddenly become bad, but because the pace of the game changes. Season 39 rewards safe damage, good positioning tools, and consistent pressure over flashy plays. In this video, we'll look into the Marksman meta along with their best builds and emblems. With that in mind, here are the top 10 Marksmen this season, ranked from good to game-defining. Starting off our list, we have Kimmy, the unconventional marksman who rewrites how gold lane pressure works. Kimmy makes the list because of flexibility, not dominance. She doesn't play like a traditional marksman. She pressures lanes early, controls space with constant damage, and forces enemies to respond. This is the build and emblem that suits best for Kimmy. Kimmy shines when teams lack early pressure, enemies struggle against sustained poke, she falls off later if positioning is sloppy, but in the right hands, she still dictates tempo. At number 9, we have Mia, the late-game insurance pick that quietly takes over games. Mia is simple, and that's her strength. She scales reliably, has a built-in reset with invisibility, and punishes teams that ignore late-game threats. Season 39 favors clean farming, late-game insurance. And Mia fits that perfectly. She won't dominate early, but if given space, she ends the games quietly. Here are the builds and emblems that work best for Mia. Mia has been getting back-to-back buffs since last season. This has insanely leveled up her power in the current meta. Once she gets her core items, she becomes a real threat to any opponent. With the attack speed from her passive combined with the split arrow skill, Mia melts enemies in a group fight. Number 8. Clint, the definition of consistency and spam burst. Clint remains one of the most stable picks. He doesn't need attack speed. He doesn't need perfect team setups. He just needs space. His build is mainly centered around burst items, unlike typical attack speed marksmen. Strong lane trades, reliable burst, and solid positioning tools make him a safe choice across ranks. Clint rarely feels useless, and that consistency matters. Clint performs best in short exchanges. Step forward, deal damage, then reposition before the fight drags on. His range lets him punish mistakes without overcommitting, which makes him reliable in chaotic fights. When played patiently, Clint doesn't need perfect mechanics. He just needs clean decisions. To wait for openings and capitalize on them. That's why he remains consistent across metas. Not flashy, just reliable. At number 7. We have the Dark System herself, Hanabi, the once doubted scaler who punishes grouped fights. Hanabi's reputation has changed this season. Better understanding of shield management, positioning, and team fight spacing has made her far more reliable. She punishes grouped enemies, scales hard, and becomes difficult to lock down when played patiently. Her build is mainly focused on her attack speed to maximize her outburst. Although she's not the strongest marksman in the current meta, she's no longer a meme pick, but a late-game threat. What makes Hanabi effective now is how well she controls extended fights. Her shield allows her to stand her ground longer than most expect, especially when timed correctly before engages. Her bouncing basic attacks create constant pressure in clustered fights, making tight positioning a liability for the enemy team. Hanabi rewards patience over aggression, discipline over greed. Given the right space to farm and proper protection from her team, she transitions smoothly into a consistent damage source that forces enemies to respect her presence. Number 6. Obsidia, the structured team fight specialist straight out of Abyss.
I am the sovereign of the Abyss.
Obsidia thrives in structured fights. Her strength lies in zone control, sustained damage, and forcing enemies into awkward positions. Her strength lies in her massive mobility and attack speed once her ultimate is linked to the enemy. In a 1 versus 1 situation, Obsidia solos almost all of the marksmen. Her build is centered around crit damage for massive output from her passive shards. Although she has fallen from her prime, as compared to this season, she still is a dominant figure in the world of marksmen. What makes Obsidia dangerous is how quickly she shifts the tempo once she locks onto a target. Once her ultimate connects, the fight immediately becomes uncomfortable for the enemy. Her mobility allows her to reposition constantly, making it difficult to pin her down or trade evenly. The passive shards add consistent burst on top of sustained damage, which means even small openings can turn into massive health swings. She performs best when fights are controlled and layered, where she can weave in and out without being forced into reckless trades. Obsidia rewards calculated aggression, not blind commitment. Number 5. Leslie, the high-precision sniper who turns mistakes into instant punishment. Leslie rewards patience. She punishes mistakes harder than almost any other marksman. True damage, long-range pressure, and safe disengage options make her lethal against careless teams. She is very different from other marksmen when it comes to playstyle. Her attacks are centered around one-shot heavy damage. Therefore, high attack damage items are her go-to. She doesn't need constant fights. She needs one mistake, and her AWM does the rest. What makes Leslie effective is how she controls space without committing. Her camouflage allows her to reposition safely, scout angles, and prepare for clean shots before the fight fully breaks out. She thrives in slower games, where vision and discipline matter more than aggression. Unlike traditional DPS marksmen, Leslie doesn't melt teams over time. She removes priority targets one by one. Her impact becomes more noticeable as the game progresses and items are completed, turning each critical shot into a serious threat. While she may struggle in chaotic, dive-heavy compositions, in controlled fights with proper protection, Leslie remains one of the most punishing late-game marksmen available. And that is why patience is not optional with her. Number 4. Ixia, the sustained damage engine designed for drawn-out battles. Ixia excels when fights slow down. Her sustained damage, area control, and defensive tools allow her to dominate extended engagements. She struggles if rushed early, but once positioned correctly, she controls entire team fights. Therefore, having a frontline tank is a must when playing Ixia. Tanks the group enemies like Tigreal and Atlas are the best. This is the build and emblem setup best suited for Ixia. Remember, Ixia rewards positioning and punishes impatience. Therefore, being aware of the surroundings and proper positioning before using ultimate is a must. What makes Ixia especially dangerous is how much space she controls once her ultimate is activated. Enemies are forced to either retreat or commit fully into unfavorable trades. Her damage output increases significantly when fights remain structured and front to back. Unlike burst marksmen, Ixia relies on sustained presence rather than quick eliminations. That's why vision control, proper spacing, and timing matter more than aggression. If caught out of position, she struggles to recover. But when protected and allowed to scale, Ixia becomes a reliable late-game damage source that steadily overwhelms opponents. In disciplined compositions, she doesn't just participate in team fights, she defines them. Number 3. Carry, the tank shredder that keeps frontliners honest. Carry remains the tank shredder this season. She has always been the tank shredder, and she will always remain the tank shredder. In a season filled with durable frontliners and prolonged fights, Carry thrives thanks to her passive that shreds tanks. Items centered around the Trinity build is the best pick for Carry to maximize her attack speed and passive. She doesn't burst. She deletes over time. Any composition relying on tanks must respect her presence or risk losing fights by default. Unlike traditional marksmen who struggle against heavy armor, Carry welcomes it. She performs best when protected and allowed to attack freely, steadily chipping away at even the toughest frontliners. Extended fights only increase her impact, as her sustained damage becomes harder to ignore. While she may not have explosive burst potential, her reliability in tank-heavy compositions makes her one of the safest picks this season. And as long as durable heroes remain in the meta, Carry will continue to remain relevant. Number 2, Granger, the tempo marksman who dominates through burst and precision. Granger dominates Season 39 through precision and control. He doesn't rely on attack speed, he relies on timing, short trades, high burst, and constant repositioning. With his mobility and pressure tools, Granger punishes poor positioning instantly. That consistency is what makes him elite this season. His build heavily focuses on high attack and penetration items, best suited to burst down enemies. What separates Granger from traditional marksmen is how he dictates the tempo of fights. He doesn't stay in extended trades. He steps in, unloads damage, and resets before retaliation. Every bullet carries weight, which means accuracy directly translates to pressure. His ultimate adds another layer of control, allowing him to zone enemies, secure low health targets, or discourage aggressive dives. Granger performs best when spacing is respected and cooldowns are managed properly. While he may struggle in chaotic, dive-heavy compositions, in controlled fights with room to reposition, he remains one of the most reliable burst marksmen available. And that is exactly why he continues to define the meta this season. Number 1. Claude. The mechanically demanding carry who defines high-level play. Claude sits at the top because he does everything the meta asks for. Mobility, safe farming, strong scaling, and explosive team fight presence. He doesn't need perfect conditions, he creates them. With his huge mobility, he can chase down or easily escape from enemies. Just like carry, Claude benefits the most from build setup, including the Trinity build. Claude forces enemies to respect positioning, cooldowns, and spacing at all times. In Season 39, no marksman controls fights as consistently as Claude. Once his core items are completed, his damage output during team fights becomes overwhelming. His ultimate can instantly shift momentum, especially when enemies group too closely together. Unlike many marksmen who depend heavily on protection, Claude can reposition mid-fight, making him difficult to lock down. He thrives in both structured and chaotic engagements, as long as spacing is respected. That versatility is what makes him the most complete marksman this season. And as long as mobility and scaling remain valuable, Claude will continue to sit at the top. Marksmen this season aren't about raw damage. They're about positioning, tempo, and decision-making. The best picks aren't always the flashiest. They're the ones that stay relevant from start to finish. If you understand why these heroes work, you'll understand the meta itself.